Erev Tov, good evening, everyone. Tonight we start a new Mishnah on the bottom of Daf Kaf Amud Bet. New Mishnah with some fundamental concepts, important discussion. Still related to Shema Yisrael, but branches out into different topics. It's completely new, except for that it's related to Shema Yisrael. We're going to get started. And before we get started, I'm going to show you two parts of the Psukim in a moment. I'll show you. We are going to speak about the halakha of a man who had a seminal emission. This could be relations with his wife, or for, let's say, something happened. But when a man has a seminal emission, the Torah tells us that there are certain things he's not allowed to do. He's not allowed to eat certain hekdesh ideas, korbanot. He cannot eat things that are korbanot. If he's a Kohen, he can't have terumah, for example. So there's certain things that a man who's had a seminal emission, he cannot eat hekdesh, teruma, or kodashim, korbanot. He has to go to the mikveh, wait for nightfall, then he's allowed to. Okay, so if a kohen, for example, is with his wife, then he wants to eat teruma, he can't. He has to go to the mikveh, and then afterwards he could be with his wife. Or sorry, afterwards he can eat the teruma. Okay, now Ezra HaSofer took this concept, that's a Torah concept. Again, the Torah concept is not being able to eat kodashim after they had a seminal emission, which, by the way, we're going to call that term a Baal Keri. A Baal Keri is a person who had a seminal emission. Okay, Baal Keri. That's what we're going to refer to him as. A Baal Keri, according to the Torah, there's certain things he cannot eat. Ezra HaSofer made a Takana, and he expanded it that said a Baal Keri cannot study Torah until he goes to the mikveh. So from the law of the Torah, he's allowed to study. He's allowed to study Torah. From the law of the Torah, he's allowed to study, but he's not allowed to eat. Ezra HaSofer said, no, you're not allowed to study Torah until you go to the mikveh. So then this is like where the practice is, where some people will go to the mikveh every morning, right? So this way, every morning they'll be good to go. Just to give you a spoiler alert, it does not apply anymore nowadays. So you don't need to go to the mikveh after someone is a Baal Keri. It's not required. But there is some discussion about Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, which is why there's this practice for Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur to go. Okay? So, I just have to say a welcome to Mr. Nick Hakimi. Nick.
Thank you.
Where are you coming from? Are you coming from Israel or from Great Neck right now?
No, Queens.
Queens. Okay, so 0 for 2. All right, Queens. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, Mr. Zorbavelli, I see you just popped up onto the screen. Shalom Aleichem,
yes,
Mr. Zorbavelli.
Yes, Rabbi. It's good to be here again.
Just say hello to everyone else. Mr.
Yes.
Ben, Azizi, Mr. Rani, Aziz. We have a lot of Kohanim tonight.
Hi, Rabbi.
How are you guys doing? Okay, so as we spoke about, we are talking about a Baal Keri, a man who had a seminal emission. Again, let's just say through having relations with his wife. From the law of the Torah, he's not allowed to eat from Kodashim or Terumah. And the rabbis added that he's not allowed to study Torah. Okay, I'm going to show you the psukim, and then we're going to start the Mishnah. So let me first show you a pasuk in Sefer Shemot. This, I believe, is Tazriah. V'ish ki tetzeh mimenu shichvat zara. When a man has an emission of semen, v'rachatz b'mayim, he needs to wash his body, which is referring specifically to a mikveh. It called bisaro, his entire body. And he is impure until the evening, which means he's not allowed to eat the terumah until nightfall. Ezra HaSofer then made a takana that he's not allowed to study Torah, but he doesn't need to wait until nightfall. All he has to do is go to the mikveh. Okay, so if a person is a Baal Keri, he could go to the mikveh and right away he's allowed to study Torah. There's one more concept that's important to see, because this is where Ezra HaSofer built it from. This is the story of Har Sinai. When Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, were at Har Sinai, or Mamad Har Sinai, and they were going to hear and receive the Torah from God, something happened prior to that. What did Moshe Rabbeinu tell the people to do? Tell the men to do? Anyone know? Say it again. Very good. To separate from their wives. Okay, and what that means is not to have relations. Right? So this is what the pasuk says. Vayered Moshe minahar la'am. Moshe came down from the mountain to the people. Vaykadesh ta'am. He purified the people. Or more, do you see the way they translated? He warned them to be pure. Vaychabesu simotam, and they washed their clothing. Sorry, I just want to get the Koran. I'm a Koran guy, or a Masuda. Let's go with Masuda tonight. Okay, so how do they translate it? I lost it. Here. Wait, hold on a second. Where was I? Then 1915. It really jumped on me. Okay, here we go. Moshe tells the people, Heyu nechonim leshloshet yamim. Be ready by the end of 3 days. You have 3 days to go prepare yourselves. Al tigeshu el isha. Don't touch any woman. Again, not to be a Baal Keri. So when they were going to receive the Torah and to hear the voice of Hashem giving us a Torah, they weren't supposed to be Baal Keri. So this is where Ezra Sofer made this takana from. Just as Moshe Rabbeinu told the people that when they were going to receive and hear the Torah, they shouldn't be Baal Keri, so too Ezra Sofer made a takana that when someone is studying Torah, it should not be a Baal Keri. Here's the question. When this enactment is intact, that one may not study Torah when he's a Baal Keri, is he allowed to recite Shema Yisrael? You see the question? Ezra Sofer made a takana not to study Torah when someone is a Baal Keri. Again, for the ones that came late, Baal Keri, he's with his wife. He has a seminal mission. So if he's not allowed to study Torah, the question is he allowed to recite Shema Yisrael for the mitzvah of Shema Yisrael? What do you think? Yes, Elon. Very good. So Elon is making a distinction based on if you're doing it as a mitzvah or doing it as Torah study. If you're doing it at the time of the mitzvah, then you're allowed to, is what Elon is suggesting. But if it's after the time, or let's say you already read it during the time, you already did the mitzvah, so Elon's saying is you can't, because that's Torah study. Very good. What else? What do you think? We have you.
Rabbi.
Oh, yeah, if you have kavanah to fulfill it, if your kavanah is Torah study or if your kavanah is for mitzvah, somewhat related. Yes, Mr. Nikki.
So I heard something that, let's say on tzitzit, maybe you can wear tzitzit that's shatnez to fulfill the mitzvah of tzitzit, even though you're transgressing something. Maybe I'm completely wrong. So I don't mean to mislead everyone, but
okay,
you understand what I'm trying to get to?
Yeah, I do. So there is this concept of, for tzitzit, if your garment is made out of wool and the strings are made out of linen, that you would be allowed to. Nowadays, we don't do this because of the whole techelet concept, but what you're getting at is you're doing a mitzvah and an avera at the same time, and it's okay. So that's what you're extrapolating and you're saying. So Ezra Sofer said you shouldn't do this, but since you're doing it for the mitzvah of Shema, then you would be allowed to do it. It sounds like. So you're saying do it. Elon is saying depends on if it's the time. David is saying it depends on what your kavanah is, if your kavanah is to do the mitzvah or not. And Nikki's saying just do it, man. Just say Shema. You know, no reason to stop saying Shema. Any other suggestions? Anyone who says no? Anyone who thinks you cannot say Shema Yisrael? Yeah?
I think it relates more to Korbanot, like being on Korbanot and say for Korban you shouldn't be able to pray if you're
Okay. So you're saying from the idea that he's not allowed to eat kadashim, which is like a korban concept. So you're saying he should definitely not be allowed to pray, but Shema you might be lighter. That is connecting to the law of the Torah. The thing is that Ezra added on something else. Ezra Sofer made a takana of not to study Torah. So it's specific to Torah as well. Okay? You guys ready? You guys prime? I'm just going to say that no one got the right answer. Okay? Good? It's good we're here. Imagine you already had the right answer. So we would switch on to the next Mishnah. Very good. Let's go. Nikki, sorry, you didn't get the right answer either. Okay? But I'm happy you're here with us, Nikki. Let's go. Share screen. Mishnah on the bottom of Berachot, Daf Chaf Amud Bet. If you're looking at the art scroll, it is on 20b4 Mishnah. We are going to speak about the Baal Keri. Let me just read for you. There's like a nice intro here. Mishnah, Ezra Sofer, decreed that one who is ritually impure because of a seminal omission may not engage in matters of Torah until he is immersed in a mikveh and purified himself. Okay, this is what we said. A Baal Keri cannot study Torah. The halakha was accepted over the course of many generations. However, many disputes arose with regard to the Torah matters to which it applies. How do you define Torah in this? What's the nature of Torah? Regarding this, the Mishnah says, here we go. Baal Keri meharher belibo. A Baal Keri, when it comes time to say Shema Yisrael, meharher belibo, he should only think about the words in his heart. He should not enunciate the words of Shema. He should not say it, but he should think. And in his mind, he thinks. You actually don't make a sound when you think in your heart, but I'm just trying to show you. Without verbalizing it, think the words. This is what our Mishnah says. Baal Keri, meharher belibo. He should contemplate Shema in his heart, ve'eno mevarech, but he should not even contemplate the Berachot that come, lo lefanea v'lo la'achareya. Not the ones before, not the ones after. The Beracha yotzer or Berachot shechoseh shel marei hakol, or v'yatziv emet v'yatziv nachon mekiyam. None of that. A Baal Keri, the only thing he should do is he cannot study Torah. What he should do is he should sit and think, think and contemplate about the words of Shema, but he should not think about the Berachot that come before and after Shema. Wow.
Say Shema in your head.
That basically says say Shema in your head. Correct. Oh, so say it again. There was a Mishnah. Do you remember the daf? You're testing me here. No. But it's good. You're close. You're very close. Double digits. You're actually very smart because we're up to Chaf Aleph, so you just picked halfway. You just won 11. You're going to be within 10. Good guess. Okay, we did it on Daf 2, Daf Ted Vav, Daf 15, where we said there that there's a whole you have to hear that which is coming out of your mouth. So there we spoke about if you verbalize it and you hear it, or if you verbalize it and you don't hear it, you fulfill your obligation. We ended up saying it was a machloket. We ended up saying if you verbalize it but don't hear it, you still fulfill your obligation. But John's making a great point. But you have to verbalize it. So here we're talking about a Baal Keri. The guy's not even verbalizing it. He's just thinking about it. But the Mishnah is telling you have to do that. So the obvious question is, what good does that do? Okay? Very good. Very good idea. That's what the Gemara is going to analyze. How is this working? To catch you up, Rama, we're talking about a Baal Keri, which is a man who had a seminal emission. Presumably, he had relations with his wife. The Takana is that he is not allowed to study Torah. We spoke about it at length. You can watch the recording. But now our question is he allowed to recite Shema? Because he's not allowed to study Torah, is he allowed to recite Shema for the mitzvah? Our Mishnah says, no, he is not allowed to recite it verbally. However, he must think about it in his mind. Meharher belibo. It says in his heart, it means his mind. Ve'eno mevarech, but he should not think about the Berachot, lo lefaneh v'lo la'acharei, not before, not after. Yes, Jared.
Like that's the order they were plotting it. Because like it talks about Krishma that we know what Krishma is mentioned at all. It makes it seem like the last is before it's talking about it.
Correct. Yeah. So the order of the Mishnayot is like part of the Mitzvah, definitely within the Perek. But yes, it's understood that the first Perek talked about the times of Shema in the evening, times of Shema in the morning, the Berachot that you say before, the Berachot that you say after. The Berachot came up on. Yeah, Adam, you're right. The Berachot of Kriyat Shema comes up on Daf Yud Aleph. So there, we already on Daf Yud Aleph, we already spoke about Berachot Kriyat Shema. So now you know what you're talking about. It's assumed that it's talking about where it's coming from. Yes, not just that, but also Masechet Makot. The first Mishnah says something, and the Gemara says, "What are you talking about? I have no idea what this is talking about." The first daf of Makot, who learned Makot? Okay, so the first daf of Makot talks about something, and it says, "What are you talking about?" And it says, "Oh, it's talking about the end of Masechet Sanhedrin." So even the order of Masechtot, there's an idea that at the beginning of Makot, it's assumed that you know what happened at the end of Sanhedrin. So yes, absolutely, it's a very good question. Okay, good. What about Birkat Hamazon? Okay, you just had a pizza party, or I don't know, a house of subs with the actual subs part. All right, you just ate some bread, and now it's time to say Birkat Hamazon. Are you allowed to recite Birkat Hamazon? You're not allowed to recite Torah. If a Baal Keri is not allowed to recite Torah, is he allowed to say Birkat Hamazon? Birkat Hamazon mevarech le'acharav. What it says here is that he is indeed allowed to make the bracha Birkat Hamazon in his mind. We're going to see that based on the Gemara. He's allowed to think about the words of Birkat Hamazon without verbalizing it. but he should not even think about the bracha before. A Baal Keri who wants to eat should not say Hamatzi Lechem Min Haaretz. Shouldn't even think Hamatzi Lechem Min Haaretz. He should eat, and then afterwards he should think Birkat Hamazon, but he should not say it. Wow, this is wild. So the two mitzvot that we're speaking about here is the mitzvah of Kriyat Shema and the mitzvah of Birkat Hamazon. Kriyat Shema and Birkat Hamazon, a Baal Keri is allowed to think in his mind. Otherwise, he's not allowed to say any Torah, and he's not even allowed to think about it. He's not allowed to think the Berachot of Kriyat Shema. He's not allowed to think about the bracha before eating. Okay? Rabbi Yehuda comes and argues with the first opinion of our Mishnah and says, Mevarech lifnehem ulacharehem. Rabbi Yehuda comes and argues really on 2 points. There's a machloket as to what he's saying, but we'll just say simply now. Rabbi Yehuda says, number one, he's allowed to verbally say it, Shema. And number two, he's even allowed to verbally say the brachas that come before Shema and after Shema also. So Rabbi Yehuda says nothing changes for the Baal Keri. He's allowed to say the bracha before and after. Now, Rabbi Yehuda agrees that he's not allowed to study Torah. It's just that he says Shema has a different status because it's part of the tefillah. As part of the tefillah, he's allowed to say the bracha before, bracha after. It's important. We'll get into the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda later of why he says you're allowed to. But even he agrees that this takana. Everyone clear? Who made this takana? Say it louder. Ezra Sofer. What was the takana? That wasn't his takana specific to Shema. It was cannot a Baal Keri cannot study Torah. And now we're saying, does that apply to Shema? Does that apply to Birkat Hamazon? And this is where we're having the discussion. Tanakama says it applies, therefore he must think it. He cannot say it. And the brachot he shouldn't even think about. And for Birkat Hamazon, he should think the bracha after, but he shouldn't even think about the bracha before. Okay? Yes.
Spoiler alert, it doesn't apply today. Is that for the Korban part or for the reciting Shema and Torah? Also,
The law of the Torah applies today, except that we don't have korbanot, we don't have kodashim. Kohanim can eat terumas potentially. There are some terumah that Sfaradi. Did you ever eat terumah? Who else? We have your Ben, Ron. Did you guys ever eat terumah? No. You guys got to hang out next to Rabbi Moshe more often. He's a pro at eating terumah.
in terms of Baal Keri and sitting Shema, does that not apply today at all?
It does not apply today. Yes, that's correct. So when I said it does not apply, I meant that a Baal Keri studying Torah nowadays is acceptable. It's acceptable. We're going to see as it emerges, but this enactment that Ezra Sofer made, that a Baal Keri cannot study Torah, it was like rescinded. It has not been kept. It's not something that people are able to keep up with, so it's been rescinded. And we'll get into that idea. But at this point of our Mishnah, we're talking about when there's a Takana of Ezra Sofer that a Baal Keri may not study Torah. Is he allowed to say Shema? The answer is no, but he should contemplate it. Think about it in his heart. Okay? You're allowed. 1 second, Nikki. Kohanim are allowed to eat terumah of challah in Chutz La'aretz after they go to the mikveh. They have to go to the mikveh because this law still applies. If you're interested, you speak with Rabbi Moshe. Yes.
Yeah, that was my question. I didn't know.
Yeah, just speak with Rabbi Moshe is the answer to everything. Okay. I don't know what the question was, but the answer was correct. Okay, let's go. Now the Gemara is going to ask a question. Okay, hold on a second. You're not allowed to study Torah, right? So what do you tell me to do? Okay, so you're telling me I'm not allowed to recite Shema, so don't verbalize Shema, but think about Shema. What? Does that work? Is thinking about it like I'm saying it? Well, clearly no, because if it was yes, then why am I thinking about it? If you're telling me that thinking and saying is the same thing, like thinking actually works, then if you're gonna let me think about it, then just let me say it. And if you're not gonna let me say it, then don't let me think about it. What does thinking do? Hey, oh, you can't say Shema. Okay, just think about it. Oh, but the other thing, don't think about. It's one thing if you think about whatever you want. Sure, think about. But then you tell me, no, you could think about this. You can't think about that. What? So how does this work? And this opens up a concept of whether hirhur ki dibur dami is hirhur, which means thinking, Is it like dibur, like speech? You ready? Let's go. Gemara. Beginning on Chaf Amud Bet on the bottom. Gemara Amar Ravina, opinion number 1. Ravina tells us the following. Zot Omeret. From this Mishnah teaches us that Hirhur Kedibur Dami, that thinking works like talking. By the way, there's a lot of Nafka Minas with this. Before I think about some Nafka Minas, first tell me, what is a Nafka Mina? We spoke about it last week. What does the term Nafka Mina mean? Practical difference. Nafka Mina means some halachic implication based on a rule. If I tell you Hirhur Kedibur Dami, it's like this. And if I tell you that Hirhur Lav Kedibur Dami, thinking is not like talking, it's like that. I'll give you a very simple idea. You're not allowed to study Torah until you make a bracha before. We learned about Berachot Kriyat Shema on Daf Yud Aleph. We learned about it. You're not allowed to study Torah before you make a bracha on it. Are you allowed to think about Torah before you make a bracha? I didn't make the bracha yet. I'm in bed. I'm not going to get up. I'm not going to say the bracha, but I want to just think about my Gemara. I want to just go through the thoughts in my mind. If you tell me that Hirhur Kedibur Dami, that speaking is like thinking is like speaking, then I can't make a bracha because I can't think before I make the bracha. But if you tell me Hirhur La Kedibur Dami, then maybe I would be allowed to think. That's a Nafka Mina. If you say like this, then that's the rule. If you say like that, that's the rule. That's the Nafka Mina. So now we're going to see, based on our Mishnah, Amar Ravina tells us, Zot Omeret, our Mishnah seems to imply here, Hirhur Kedibur Dami, that thinking is like talking. Because if thinking was not did not work, it wasn't like talking. Why are we asking you to do this? Why are we even asking you to think? This Baal Keri, we say, okay, you have to think about Shema. So obviously it works, because if it wouldn't work, then why are you bothering the guy? So this means it works. Elamai, but the Gemara says, but what does that mean? Hirhur Kedibur Dami, does it really work? Does thinking actually, is it similar to actually talking? So Yotzi B'Svatev, so then just do it. Just say it. If you see, like you have like the, what's it called? When you have two sides of something. Yeah, maybe seesaw, manavshah, which however you slice it. If you tell me that Hirhur Lav Kedibur, that it's not like talking, then why are you making me do it? Oh, so if you're making me do it, then you're saying it works. But then if it works, then why don't I just say it? Why am I not allowed to say it? Why do you tell me to think about it instead of saying it? Oh, okay. So Ilan is coming up with a third idea that it works partially, right? Okay. Okay, very good. So this is the idea, is that it's worth something. Is it worth something? It's worth something, because otherwise he wouldn't tell you to do it. But what's exactly the nature of this? Okay, so we have to delve into this. So the Gemara first wants to say, according to Ravina says it works. Hirhur is like dibur. But if it's like dibur, then why don't I just say it? Here's why. Because when Ezra Sofer made his Takana, he made the Takana only in a similar situation as Har Sinai. At Har Sinai, we heard it. It wasn't just thinking, there was actually speaking. And what happened to be was speaking from God. So since there was speech involved, and Moshe Rabbeinu told them, hey, you can't be a Baal Keri, so Ezra Sofer made a Takana that when someone is a Baal Keri, he's not allowed to speak the words of Torah, but he is allowed to think. So is thinking like speaking? Yes. And that's why we tell the guy, think the Shema. But if it's like speaking, then why don't I just say it? The answer is because that was Ezra Sofer's Takana. Does it work? Yes. But Ezra Sofer made a Takana, and his Takana was, when someone is a Baal Keri, he should not speak Torah. He's allowed to think Torah. So it just comes out to that this is how the enactment was made. Does it work? It works. But the enactment was against speech, because that's what happened at Har Sinai. It was not against contemplating Torah, because that's not what happened at Har Sinai. At Har Sinai, there was actual speech. The people were listening, but there was speech involved. Okay? This is Ravina's approach. Yes.
Like, where you told for saying, Torah, like saying, I don't know, I forgot what we put it in terms of like, oh, can you say, think it in your head?
Beautiful, beautiful. That's exactly a Nafka Mina. Can you think about Torah in your mind before you say Birkat Torah in the morning? Right? That's exactly it. That's a Nafka Mina. If you say here hur kedibur dami, thinking is like talking, well, you're not allowed to speak Torah before making the bracha, then you wouldn't be allowed to think Torah either. But if you say here la kedibur dami, that thinking is not like speaking, there's a difference, then perhaps before making a bracha, I would be allowed to think about it. And this is what we said. Shulchan Aruch says that one is allowed to think. One is indeed allowed to think Torah before making the bracha. Yeah, he's allowed to. Yes. Very good. This is what John was saying. It's a Mishnah on Daf Tedvav, that we had this discussion of someone read Shema but didn't hear himself. Machloket, whether he fulfilled his obligation or not. La'maaseh, we said yes, he fulfills his obligation. But the whole discussion there was, he said it and he could hear himself, or he said it and he couldn't hear himself, but he had to say it. He has to verbalize it. For sure, he has to verbalize it. That's how you do the mitzvah, is by verbalizing it. Here, what we're saying is, don't verbalize it, just think it. And we're saying, so that means thinking is like verbalizing. So he's saying it is. That's the only reason why we tell you to do it. So, but he's saying thinking is the same as verbalizing. He's equating the two. You have to verbalize it, and thinking is also similar to verbalizing. He's defining that hirhur is like dibur. That's how Rav Yonah wants to take this approach. Let's see what Rav Chisda says. Good question. Good question. Some commentators ask that nowhere do we see that they didn't think about it. We just know, meaning they probably did think also. But when Ezra Sofer, this is how this approach is saying, is that Ezra Sofer said in that case where they had to go to the mikveh, there was speech. So Ezra Sofer in his enactment was lenient. He said, I'll only make this enactment on speech. We're going to end up learning later why he made this enactment. The enactment was because it was because people were having relations too often. And having relations too often ended up, there was issues that came with it. So he basically did something and he made it difficult to study Torah by having relations. So this way it would decrease the amount. That person should have it whenever they're supposed to have it, but they shouldn't be doing it all the time. Okay, it didn't stick. The Takana didn't stick. Okay, but when he made an enactment, he didn't go all the way. He went partially, because since there was speech, so it's only for the speech part. That's how Rav Yonah wants to say. Rav Chisda says, no, thinking is not like talking. Thinking is not like talking. Thinking is thinking, like what Elon's saying. Thinking is not like talking. Because if it worked, then you would just tell the Baal Keri to just say it. But what do you tell the Baal Keri? You tell him, no, you're not allowed to say it, not allowed to say it. Oh, just think about it. Okay, so he's saying it's not the same as speech. But if that's the case, you want to say that it doesn't work. So why are you making the guy think about it? Baal Keri comes and says, am I allowed to say Shema? The answer is no, you have to think about it. Why? Thinking works? No. So why are you making me think about it? This is the question. If you're going to tell me that thinking doesn't work like speech, so then why are you making him think? Amar Rabbi Lazar, so Rabbi Lazar says, I'll tell you why. It's not because you're fulfilling the mitzvah. You're not fulfilling the mitzvah because you have to verbalize it. And thinking is not good. But everyone around you, you're in Kanisa, everyone is accepting the heavenly yoke of Hashem. Everyone is saying Hashem Echad, Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, accepting Hashem, and you're just sitting there. You're not doing anything. He says it's not appropriate that everyone is involved in the mitzvah of Shema and you're not doing anything. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to. But at the very least, you should be thinking about it. Not because you're doing the mitzvah. You're not. You have to say the words. This is the way Rav Chisda says it. You're not doing the mitzvah, but you're required to think about it. Why? Because it's inappropriate that everyone is doing the mitzvah and you're sitting there and doing nothing. At the very least, you should be thinking about it. So the Gemara is going to say, hold on a second. And I know there's questions. Let's just finish the flow. So it says, if you're saying it doesn't count and he's allowed to think about, so let him think about whatever he wants to think about, right? Let's say he wants to think about the parasha. Let's say he wants to think about the Gemara. Once you're telling me that he's not doing the mitzvah of Shema, why do you have to? Sorry? No, so he's saying it's not. He's saying that thinking is not like speech. Once you say thinking is not like speech, so why are you telling me to think? Oh, because everyone else is thinking about this, then you should also. It's okay, but let him. Okay, so tell him to think about something. You're telling me thinking is okay because it's not speech, so it's allowed. So it's allowed. Let me think about whatever I want. Why do I specifically have to think about this? It's like someone is reading Tehillim, and then you come and say, you have to say chapter 73. Right? Let me say whichever chapter I want to say. I want to say another chapter. Let me say another chapter. You're telling me that this is not counting for my mitzvah of Shema. So why am I thinking about this? I'm thinking about this because everyone else is thinking about it. But let me think about something else. The Gemara says, no, I'll tell you why. Amar Ravada Barava b'davar shehatzibur oskin bo. Again, tying back to that idea, everyone is thinking about this. And it's appropriate that you should be part of the tzibur, that they are all involved with this, that you should be thinking about this. We're not saying that, hey, it's not appropriate that everyone is busy and you're not. What he's saying is it's not appropriate that everyone is thinking about Shema Yisrael and you're not thinking about Shema Yisrael, because that's what everyone else is thinking about. So you should be part of the tzibur. You're not allowed to say it because the person is a Baal Keri, but at least you should be thinking about it. So according to Rav Chasta, is he fulfilling the mitzvah of Shema? Not at all. So why are you telling him to think about Shema? To be part of everyone else. Everyone is doing this. Be part of the community. Be part of the congregation. They're all saying Shema. At least you should think about it, Shema. Are you doing the mitzvah? No. I'm not telling you you're doing the mitzvah. I'm telling you to think about it. But let's take Rav Chasta. And what about the other opinion, Ravina? Ravina, does he say, are you fulfilling the obligation? Ravina says, Hirur is like Dibur. Thinking is like talking. According to Ravina, are you fulfilling your obligation of Shema? Yes, you are. But if this is a form of fulfilling my mitzvah, then just let him say it. Why isn't he allowed to say it? He's allowing him to think it, and he's saying thinking works. So then let me just say it.
Because he's carrying, can't something block him, so maybe he's just doing one of the parts.
Okay, good. This is like what we were saying at the beginning, but the Gemara gave us an answer. This is like what Rama was saying and Ilan was saying, how it's partial. But the Gemara gave us an answer. What, according to Ravina, Hirhur is like Dibur. Thinking is like talking. That was the first view. So why is it that he's allowed to think? Very good. Because the Takana of Ezra Sofer was only against speech. So is he fulfilling his obligation of Shema? Yes, he is. So why isn't he allowed to say it? Because the Takana is not. So like Rama, back to your point, and Ilan, how you were saying speech is only partial. No. According to Ravina, speech is 100%. Thinking is the same as speaking. Ezra Sofer made a Takana against speech. So therefore, you're not allowed to speak. Okay, so think. You fulfill your obligation through that way. That's what Ravina is saying. It works to do the mitzvah. But that's not what Ezra Sofer and made an enactment against. It's okay, so do it this way. Think about it. According to Ravina, is thinking the same as speech? Yes, that's the first opinion. If that's the case, why don't you just let him speak? Because there's a takana against speech, but not a takana against thinking, because that's what happened on Har Sinai. Okay? And according to Rav Chasta, the second opinion, thinking is not like speech. So why are you telling the guy to think about it if it's not even helping? Because that's everyone is busy. Okay, so why can't he be busy with something else? You want him to be involved with the same thing that everyone else is involved with. Okay, good. Let's stop for some questions. We're not done with the flow at all. Let's stop. Yes, Tomer. Okay, Rama.
Have the Amidah, let's say you're middle of Amidah, and they say Shomea Omer, so you can't say them at Tishach, but if you hear it, so you're fulfilling the mitzvah. So could that be the similar thing? Is that
I have to give you a standing ovation.
You're thinking it, you're hearing it, but you're not saying.
Okay, very good. So let me explain what Rama's question is and say how we're talking about something nuanced difference here. Rama is asking about a rule that we spoke about last week. That rule is a concept of shomea ke'oneh. It's a mechanism that if someone listens and has in mind to fulfill, they could fulfill the obligation with one who is speaking. So we spoke about this last week. when we're speaking about saying Kiddush. A person can say Kiddush for others to fulfill their individual obligations of Kiddush. How does that work? If I'm saying Kiddush, how are you fulfilling your mitzvah? Exactly. The answer is through this mechanism of Shomea Keoneh. The one who is thinking, it's as though he is saying it himself. And we ask this question of, can ladies do that? Well, it depends. For Birkat Hamazon, can a man lead the Birkat Hamazon for others? Yes. Fulfill the obligation for others. Because, yeah, exactly. Because they are Torah level, and the people listening are Torah level. But a woman, if she is at the Torah level, then she would be allowed to lead, and people would be able to fulfill through Shomea Keoneh, because they listen to her. Because a feature of Shomea Keoneh is that it only works if the person who's doing it is at least obligated to the same level as you, if not more. But if they're obligated a level less, then I cannot fulfill my obligation by listening to someone that's not obligated. They're not obligated. So that's why we had this discussion, okay? But there's a nuanced difference between Shomea Keoneh and what we're talking about. The difference is, there, with Shomea Keoneh, someone is speaking and someone is listening. Here in our Mishnah, no one's talking. Hirhur is like what Shelby said, just in your mind. It's not that it's in someone else's mouth and it's in my mind because I'm missing them. No, I'm not listening to someone else. I'm just thinking. If I'm just thinking, does that work? Does that work? The answer is machloket. One opinion says thinking is like speech. Another opinion says thinking is not like speech. Our Mishnah could be read either way, because it tells a Baal Keri that think about the Shema. So one says, that's a proof for me. Thinking obviously works, because otherwise why would you tell him to think? And then you can say, we're just telling him to think so he's involved with what everyone else is involved with, but it doesn't actually work. Or you could say the opposite. Thinking does not work. Oh, if thinking does not work, then why would you even tell him to, or sorry, the opposite. Thinking clearly does work. But if his thinking really did work, then why wouldn't you just tell him to say it? Oh, because there's a Takana. Ezra made a Takana not to say it. So he's picking the avenue that works, which is thinking. So our Mishnah is not clear. You have two opinions on whether Shomea, not Shomea Keoneh, but Hirhur Kidibur Dami or Hirhur Lav Kidibur Dami. Question. And then
in response to that,
You're next.
if you think about hearing shofar, would that work?
Ooh, okay. So shofar with Shomea Keoneh means that someone is blowing the shofar and I hear the person. Can I fulfill my obligation? Okay. And the answer is yes. This comes up in Masechet Rosh Hashanah, I think Daf Kafchet or Kaftet or both, where you hear someone here blowing the shofar and I fulfill my obligation to him. If I do shofar through Hirhur, not through Shomea Keoneh, but through Hirhur, what does that mean? That means I'm thinking about the sound of shofar. No, that's not working. Okay, but here's the thing: talking the sound of shofar doesn't work either. So Hirhur, the most that it could be is like dibur, like speech. If I go ooh 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 ooh, did I fulfill the obligation? No. So obviously Hirhur can't work because dibur can't work. And it's a question of whether Hirhur is like dibur or not, whether thinking is like speaking. But speaking doesn't work for shofar. Shofar, you have to hear the actual sound of shofar. So when I hear, and if someone else is blowing it and having it in mind, I can fulfill the obligation. But I have to hear the actual shofar. I can't hear another sound and say I'm thinking of it to be a shofar. Yeah. Correct, but that's not me'akeh. Yeah, you should hear the bracha. Yeah.
My
We're here, Rob.
That according to Ravina, if he thought of whatever it was, the Shema or whatever, and then he miraculously found the mikveh and went, and he still had time to repeat Dati.
So according
to
Ravina, he's of the opinion that Hirhur is like dibur. He would not be required to. He fulfilled his obligation. He didn't say Berachot Kriyat Shema. He didn't think Berachot Kriyat Shema. Remember, because our Mishnah says, think Shema, but don't think about the Berachot before and after. So if the person goes to the mikveh, he should say the Berachot Kriyat Shema because he missed that. But with respect to Shema, according to Ravina, he's done. He did his mitzvah. He doesn't need to do it again. Yeah.
How could both Ravina and Rafisa just be quoted by the MISHNA?
We can look it up. You want to look it up? We'll look it up. In 1 minute, let's wrap let's wrap up the Gemara, then we'll look it up. Sorry, Rama, and then Shelby. Cousins?
Lost their horse and they want to go pray and they can't utter any word.
Lost his horse?
They
What?
lost their horse.
Oh.
Horse, they have no horse.
I thought you said lost his horse. Yeah, okay, fine. Lost his voice.
Standing and thinking, do they fulfill like everybody else?
Okay, very good question. That would be a Nafka Mina of this discussion. If he heard Kedibur, then yes. If he heard Kedibur, then no. We have to see the halacha. We're not up to halacha yet. We're not even done with the Gemara. I think that also comes to what Jared wants to see what the halacha is. We're going to see the Rambam's famous opinion about this. Not yet.
Well, you're saying that you have to say Shema while fall into this.
Daf Tet Vav on Daf Tet. Okay, so over there's an opinion that says you have to hear yourself. So if you have to hear yourself, then obviously you're not fulfilling your obligation, okay, because you're not hearing. But there's an opinion that says you don't have to hear yourself. According to that opinion, you say it and not hear yourself, you're good. Think it and not hear yourself, you're also good.
What if you're a minyan and the Chazan is saying it and you're saying it to yourself while the Chazan is saying it while the rest of the
So what's the case? The case is you're saying it yourself.
You're saying it quietly, you're saying it in your head, and the Chazan is saying it out loud.
Oh. You're saying like you don't
Looking at the words, you fulfill your mitzvah, bring the Torah with them.
of Torah or Shema?
No, Shema.
Of Shema.
It's a
So-
Shema in general.
Okay, so this is like the broader discussion of Shomea Keoneh. Remember, Shomea Keoneh is a different mechanism. Shomea Keoneh, hearing a Chazan, is something else. Here, Hur Kedibur is, there's no one else, you're the only one in the world. It's just you. You're just thinking. Are you fulfilling your obligation or not? So it could be similar, but we have to draw a line. If there is speech involved, even if it's not my speech, there's speech. Here we're talking about no speech, just here hur. Okay? Yes.
You find or give an example of Nafka Mina again? Is it just like one ruling affects another?
Okay, so what is a Nafka Mina? Very good. A Nafka Mina is if there's two sides or two ways to view something, it's either like this or like that, then we could think of a case. Think about a scenario or a case that would have different laws based on different rules. Okay, so I'll give you an example. I'm going to tell you that you are not allowed to speak Torah before you say bracha. Okay, so far with me? You want to speak Torah? You got to say bracha of Asher Bachar Banu before. Okay, let's say you do that. Now I'm going to say, are you allowed to think? Well, this is a Nafka Mina to the question of, is thinking like speech or is thinking not like speech? If thinking is like speech, then you're not allowed to think before you say bracha. If thinking is not like speech, then you are allowed to. So the question of, are you allowed to think before you say the bracha? That's the Nafka Mina. If you view the rule this way, then the answer is yes. If you view the rule that way, the answer is no. Someone else give me an example of a Nafka Mina. A Nafka Mina is a case that the rule in that case will be different
Setting a precedent.
depending on two principles. Yeah, it could be a precedent,
Could be applying
but
this case to other cases.
it's more of the case. The case is the Nafka Mina. Someone give me another example of a Nafka Mina. It's a case, it's a question that could have two different answers depending on what the principle is. Okay, well, that's not the Nafka Mina. The Nafka Mina, whether it's from the Torah or from the Ran, is not whether they're obligated. The Nafka Mina is, that's not the Nafka Mina. That's the principle. The Nafka Mina is, very good. Can a woman say Shema to lead for other people? That's the Nafka Mina. If you say the principle is that she's chaya from the Torah, the answer to this question is yes. If you say the principle is that she's only chaya from the Rabbanan, the answer is no. The Nafka Mina is a question. That the answer is going to be yes or no to that question. Depends. If the principle is like this, the answer is yes. If the principle is like that, the answer is no. Another example of a Nafka Mina. John, we're doing this for you. Let's think about something. Ask me a question. Yeah.
This wouldn't be enough for me. I want to know why. Let's say you have Shabbat ending time and you have Rabbeinu Tam and
Okay.
Would that be enough? I mean, that sense of
Okay.
they're
Very
basically-
good. Very good. Very good. I'll work it. Okay. So let's think about it like this. I'm teaching you a principle here. I'm teaching you a rule. Nafka minas, you ask it as a question. The answer is going to be yes or no. Okay. The answer of the question is going to be yes or no. That's the nafka mina. It's either yes or no. But it's going to depend on a principle. And if you say the principle is like this, then yes. If you say the principle is like that, then no. Perfect example. There's two opinions as to what is nightfall. According to Rabbeinu Tam, it's 72 minutes after sunset. According to others, let's say the Vilna Gaon, it's at sunset. So it's either at sunset, according to the Gra, or it's 72 minutes after that. Okay, so now I have a question. A baby is born 30 minutes after sunset on Wednesday night, which is the same as halachically Thursday. Should the Brit Milah be on Thursday? That's the Nafka Mina. If you hold like the Vilna Gaon that it's at sunset, the answer is it's already the next day. Yes. If you hold like Rabbeinu Tam that it's at 72 minutes, it's before sunset, the answer is no, because you should do the Brit on Wednesday. Okay? That's an example. Nafka Mina is I have a question, and the answer is either yes or no, or the answer is either A or B.
Depends on how you hold.
And it depends on how you hold. Very good. The principle is the machloket, is the two views. The nafka mina is your litmus test. It's your the answer of that question is going to change depending on how you view it. Let's do one more. Come on, another nafka mina. You guys are gonna be nafka mina experts. Yes, Joey, you got it.
Jews to say Havdalah.
Okay, very good.
It's Ashkenazim do.
Okay. I gotta work this out. Okay, very good. No, Ashkenazim do it. Ashkenazim, I have a lot of memories about it. That's why I didn't know. Okay, fine. So, okay, here we go. Are you allowed to use orange juice for Havdalah? Okay, so let's go back and see what the principle is. Here, in this case, it's not as elegant. The principle is, okay, yes, I got it. Okay, fine. There is a concept that you are allowed to say Havdalah on Chamar Medina, okay? On the beverage of the area, of the town. Chamar Medina. For example, beer is allowed. So here's the question. How do you view Chamar Medina? Would you consider a soft drink like juice Chamar Medina? If you say that juice is a Chamar Medina, then the answer is yes. If you say that juice is not Chamar Medina, it has to be alcoholic, then the answer is no. Or maybe you ask the question like this: does Chamar Medina have to be alcoholic? If you say that yes, it has to be alcoholic, then the answer is no. You cannot say Birkat on orange juice. If you say that Chamar Medina does not have to be alcoholic, then yes, you could say it on orange juice. So you see, that's it. What's the Nafka Mina? The Nafka Mina is, can you say Havdalah on orange juice? What's the principle of, does Chamar Medina need to be alcoholic or not? You guys having fun?
Either side.
What is it?
You can argue either side.
It's not that you could argue either side. It's that this will help you reverse engineer things. That you might say that, oh, if I'm allowed to, then clearly Chamar Medina does not need to be alcoholic, because this is the Nafka Mina. So the concept of Nafka Mina can help you to reverse engineer to learn principles. Yeah? Okay. Should we keep going? You know that? Okay, Rama. What is, okay, you know what, Rama? Whatever you say, we have to follow. Okay.
But let's say someone wants to wait after eating meat. Some people wait 3 hours, some people wait 6 hours.
Okay. This is not
1 hour.
This is not a question Q&A. Ask your rabbi whatever you want. No, I don't want to go there, honestly. Okay, I don't want to go there. Just pick something else. Amsterdam, they keep 1 hour. Go to Amsterdam, Rama. Go. Yeah, it's a good question. But here, you know what? I actually could. Okay, I'll give you an Nafka Mina. We'll do the Nafka Mina. Okay, ready? There is two opinions, but this is very dangerous. Very dangerous, because now I know I know someone's gonna go eat meat and dairy together because of what I'm about to do. Okay, ready? Here, let's go to Nafka Mina. Here we go. There's two opinions as to why you have to wait after you eat meat before you eat dairy. Okay, two opinions, two views. One opinion is you might have meat stuck between your teeth. Another is you might have the taste and the flavor of meat in your palate, in your mouth. So for both of these reasons, two opinions, as therefore you must wait before having dairy after having meat. Okay? Either it's meat stuck between your teeth, or you have meat the taste of meat and the oils of meat in your palate, or in your digestive system, in your mouth, your palate, your throat, your esophagus, all of the above. Okay? So Nafka Mina, you ready? Here's a Nafka Mina. Am I allowed to have dairy after meat if I floss and I know there's nothing stuck between my teeth? If I floss, that's a Nafka Mina. If I floss, am I allowed to have meat, dairy right afterwards? Well, if you say the reason for waiting is because I might have meat stuck between my teeth, and when I floss, I know there's no meat stuck between my teeth, the answer is yes, I'm allowed to have dairy right afterwards. But if you say that it has nothing to do with something between my teeth, it has to do with the flavor in my throat, then you floss, you're still going to have the flavor. You know, some people tell me that he eats a hot dog and he's burping up the flavor of hot dogs like 18 hours later. It's still in the flavor. So then, you know what? It has nothing to do with you floss. Floss, do whatever you want. You could even take out your dentures. You're still going to have an issue. Oh, dentures! Dentures! That's enough, Kamina. That's it. I have dentures. Am I allowed to have dairy? Well, if it's because you're going to have meat stuck between your teeth, I don't have teeth, so I'm allowed to. But if you tell me it's not because of teeth, it has to do with the digestive system, then I have to wait. There you go. Now you see, these are Nafka Mina. Nafka Mina, dentures. If I don't have dentures, am I allowed to? This is the concept of Nafka Mina. The only reason I'm spending so much time on this is because it's a core concept that you probably all know, but maybe you don't have the terminology. So it's important. Nafka Minas are very beautiful ways to help you understand two views of something. Because if I say like this and like that, you might say, what's the difference? I'll tell you the difference. I'll give you a Nafka Mina. When I told you meat between the teeth or meat in your throat, you'd be like, well, what's the difference? But once I give you a Nafka Mina and I tell you dentures, oh, now I see it's different. There's meat stuck there, or there's not meat stuck there, there's flavor stuck there. All right, very good. Yeah. Yeah. You know, there are things like that. Like people think that they have to have a kosher for Passover Invisalign. I have Invisalign. All right, whatever. No, you see, I knew it. I knew someone was going to go have dairy after me because of this. No, Iman, relax. We're not doing you have real teeth. Yeah, no. There's no, because it might be like that, so therefore we don't. There's no one that says the law. No one that says the law. Yeah. Very good. Nafka Mina doesn't mean that, like, on one side I want to follow the Torah, the other side I don't want to follow the Torah. If I don't want to follow the Torah, the answer is yes. That's not Nafka Mina. Nafka Mina is, the question is, how do you view the principle? What's the nature of this law? If the nature of the law is like that, then the rule is yes. If the nature of law is like that, then the rule is no. Yeah, okay. I think we're like, now it's like very hypothetical. I have no idea what we're talking about anymore. But yes. There's situations of machloket, and each one has to be dealt with. But this is like the overall structure of an Nafka Mina. Yeah, so the concept is all over Shas, but the last Gemara used the words specifically of Nafka Mina. It actually says, what is the Nafka Mina? The Gemara asks, what is the Nafka Mina? And I give the answer. So because of that, we spent some time talking about it. But the concept is not a new concept. All right, like we had it in the first Mishnah. What happened? Rabban Gamliel's kids came home, his sons came home from a party, and it was after midnight. And they said, it's after midnight before dawn. Should we say Shema or not? Well, if Chachamim actually hold midnight, then no. But if Chachamim hold dawn, but they're just setting a boundary, then yes, that's a Nafka Mina. So we had a Nafka Mina from the first thing, but the terminology of Nafka Mina was something that was said in the last Gemara. Okay, very good. All right, guys. Shema Mina, yeah. Different words. Yeah, we could do that. We can do that. That's actually a great homework assignment. Let's do a few more lines. Okay, now we're in the second view. Remember, there's two views. According to Ravina, hirhur kedibur dami. Hirhur, thinking, is like speech. That's why we tell him to think about the Shema when he's a Baal Keri. But why is that not in violation of Ezra's Takana? Because Ezra's Takana was only against speech proper. So even though hirhur is like speech, it's not. It's not in violation of the enactment, and it's a fulfillment of the mitzvah of Shema. That's Ravina. Rav Chasta on the other side, hirhur lav kedibur. Hirhur does not work. It's not like speech. So why are you making him think about it? Everyone else is thinking about this. You should think about it too. So now we're going to challenge that concept. Really? Everyone else is thinking about it, so I have to think about it too? I have an example where that's not the case. Let's see it. Vaharet tefillah, when it comes to Amidah, the davar shatzibur asukin bo, it's something that everyone else is thinking about. A Baal Keri is in a situation where everyone around him is praying, and he is a Baal Keri. So what does it tell us in the Mishnah? Udnan, we learned in the Mishnah, Haya omed bitfilah. The guy already started his tefillah. He already started shacharit. V'nizkar shu Baal Keri, and he remembers now in the middle of his prayer, he realizes, oh, I'm a Baal Keri. I didn't go to the mikveh yet. So what does the Mishnah say? Lo yafsik. Since you started, don't stop. Ela yikatzer. But you got to shorten it. I don't know. Say like 3 lines per bracha and wrap it up. For our purposes, we're not going to define how you shorten it. But it says, look, you started. You can't stop. You can't just drop in the middle. But you just say a few words and finish up. So the Gemara says, Ta'ama da'atchil. The only reason why we let him continue is because he started. But if he wouldn't have started, lo yatchil. Don't pray. Don't pray at all. So you see the rule by a Baal Keri is he shouldn't pray Amidah. Well, everyone else around him is praying Amidah. Everyone else is thinking about Amidah. And you tell him, no, don't pray. You don't tell him, you have to think about it because everyone else is thinking about it. And we want you to think about what everyone else is thinking about. You just say, don't pray. So if this rule is true, that since thinking doesn't work, but I want you to think about it anyway because everyone else is thinking about Shema and saying Shema, so you should think about what everyone else is thinking about. But you don't say that by prayer. You don't say that by tefillah. You're not telling me I have to think about it because everyone else is saying it. So the Gemara says, you know why? Because it's the difference between Shema and tefillah. Shan in tefillah, the late ba malchut shamayim. Tefillah does not have accepting the heavenly yoke of God. There's a reason why Shema, when everyone else is saying it, you have to at least think it, because that is accepting God. Tefillah is not accepting God. Tefillah is asking God for help. Important. It's praising Hashem and thanking Hashem. It's important. But it's not declaring, I believe in God. Nowhere in it does it say that Ani Ma'amin. It's not in the Tefillah that Shema Yisrael Adonai Echad, Hashem is one. You're making requests of him. Implicitly, that's saying that he's God, but it's not accepting him the way Shema is. So when everyone is accepting, it's like a pledge of allegiance. Everyone is standing their hands up, and then you go and you take a kneel, and you don't care, and you're not involved, and you're not thinking. That doesn't look right. Amidah is okay, because Amidah is not the pledge of allegiance in the moment. But Shema is. So when Shema, everyone is saying it, you should at least be thinking it. Tefillah, you don't need to. The Gemara says, oh, but I have a problem. What's my problem? Birkat Hamazon. V'harei Birkat Hamazon la'acharav delet pe malchut shamayim. What happened with Birkat Hamazon? What did we tell the guy that he has to do for Birkat Hamazon? Not say it. Does he have to think it? Afterwards, Birkat Hamazon, he has to think it. Not even think about the Berachot before, but afterwards, you have to think. Okay? So now, hold on a second. Okay, so let's get this straight. According to Rav Chasta, thinking doesn't work. So why think? Because thinking is a way to connect with everyone else. Okay, so why don't I think during the tefillah? Because you only need to connect everyone else when they're accepting God. Thinking works to connect other people when they're accepting God. But then you told me to think about Birkat Hamazon. Birkat Hamazon is not accepting God. It's thanking God for the food that I ate. It's not this pledge of allegiance. So that's why he says, Birkat Hamazon afterwards. It's not accepting the heavenly yoke. Udnan, but we tell in the Mishnah, Amazon, mevarech le'acharav. A person should think about the bracha of Birkat Hamazon afterwards, ve'eno mevarech lefanah, but he shouldn't even think about the bracha before. So according to Rav Chasta, where thinking does not work like speech, and the only reason why we tell you to think is because we want you to be involved with everyone, like everyone else, when they are accepting the heavenly yoke of God. Then why are you telling him to think about Birkat Hamazon? It doesn't work. It doesn't work. And it's more like tefillah than it is like Shema. So the Gemara says, Ela, take everything that I said and throw it out. I'll tell you why you have to think about it in Shema and you don't have to think about it in tefillah. And why you have to think about it in Birkat Hamazon, you don't have to think about it in tefillah. Here's why. Kiryat Shema Birkat Hamazon deoraita utfilah d'Rabanan. When it comes to Kiryat Shema, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. When it comes from Birkat Hamazon, it's a mitzvah from the Torah. When it comes to tefillah, it's a mitzvah from the rabbis. Okay, we're going to elaborate this, but first let's understand the Nafka Mina here. Okay, are you supposed to think about something if you're not allowed to say it? Ezra first says, I'm not allowed to say it. Should I think about it? The answer is, well, it depends. Depends on if it's the Oraita or it's the Rabbanan. If it's a Torah law, then you have to think about it. If it's a rabbinic law, then you should not even think about it. So when it comes to Birkat Hamazon, is that from the Torah, from the rabbis? Birkat Hamazon is from the Torah. So you have to say it. You have to think it rather. Shema, it's from the Torah. What about the Berachot of Shema? From the rabbis. So don't think it. What about tefillah? From the rabbis. This is the rule that we're saying here, so you don't have to say. So go back to our Mishnah. Okay. Pause. Yes, very good. We're gonna come back to that in a second. Tefillah here, the Gemara. Look at these words, David. What does this say? Utfilah the Rabbanan. It's rabbinic. We're gonna come to the opinion of the Rambam in a second. This whole Gemara, there's a lot of Rambam differences, but hold on for a second when it comes to halacha. So let's go back to our Mishnah. Our Mishnah says a Baal Keri. We know he's not allowed to say words of Torah. What does it say? When it comes to Shema, what should he do? He should think about the Shema in his heart. But what about the Berachot? No, he should not say it, should not even think it. What's the difference between Shema that he says think about it and the Berachot that he says don't think about it? Shema is from the Torah, therefore he must think about it. Berachot of Kriyat Shema are rabbinic, therefore he must not. And then when it comes to meals, it says bracha after think, bracha before don't even think. What's the difference? Bracha afterwards is from the Torah, bracha from the Torah. Bracha before is rabbinic. Now this is now going to lead us into the sources. What's the source that Birkat Hamazon is from the Torah? What's the source that Shema is from the Torah? A lot of these things where now the Gemara is going to get very juicy. And now not tonight, we're not going to be able to get there, but there's a lot of juicy stuff. I have a few questions I have to deal with. David's question of, is tefillah really rabbinic? Okay. What's your question? Yeah, let's add your question.
Is the Deoraita mitzvah not to actually say the words of Shema?
So, yes, it is. It is. So he's not fulfilling his obligation. Remember, okay, very good. Gabriel asked a very, 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 very important question. Remember, there's two views of our Gemara. The first view is that of Ravina that says thinking is like speech. Thinking is like speech. Well, if thinking is like speech, then why don't I just speak? The answer is because there's a Takana against speech. But thinking is like speech, you fulfill your obligation. The second view, that of Rav Chasta, you're not fulfilling your obligation because thinking is not like speech. So why am I thinking? The answer is, it's from the Torah. And so since it's from the Torah, we're requiring you to speak. So now you're asking the question of, okay, so what? So what? Why does it work? The answer is, this is like this concept here. Do they, let me see if they have a footnote on this. The Raita and the Rabbanan. Footnote 5. Yeah, look at footnote 5. The biblical source for Birkat Hamazon, no, not that one. This one. Footnote 6, rather. See footnote 6, okay? Ready, Gabriel? You read footnote 6 nice and loud.
So although the Baal Keri does not actually fulfill the obligation of recital with his contemplation of Shema and Birkat Torah.
Sorry, I'm just realizing that there are people on the Zoom that can't hear you. So I'm going to read, but yeah, that's it. Although the Baal Keri does not actually fulfill his obligation of the recital with his contemplation of Shema or Birkat Hamazon, meaning thinking doesn't work, still, since the saying of these texts is biblically mandated, he ought to do whatever he can in that manner and at least contemplate the words. Yeah, and that's it. So it's like saying, like, no, you're not fulfilling the obligation. Remember, this view of Rav Chasta says you're not fulfilling the obligation. So why are you making me do it? Well, everyone else is doing it, so you have to be involved. And it's like, that's not true. Everyone else is involved with tefillah, and you don't have to be involved. Oh, yeah, you're right. Oh, everyone else is involved with accepting God. He says, but that's not true because by Birkat Hamazon I'm not accepting God. You're like, yeah, you're right. It's just because it's from the Torah. So you're not fulfilling your obligation, but we want you to think about it. Why? Because when it's something from the Torah, at the very least, we want you to think about it. You're not fulfilling your obligation, but we want you to think about it. But when it's from the rabbis, we don't even require you to think about it.
It's like if you don't think about it, it being bad, like, okay, then why don't you can go to Kenny stuff?
Right. It's almost like, yeah, like you could end up going further away. Person is a Baal Keri, then he's going to say, well, I'm not even allowed to do this. So I'm just going to give up. Like, no, make him do it so he stays connected and then have him want more. Okay, I have so many questions that I have to get to. I can't accept more questions in the moment. Okay, we'll come to it. Let me just speak about David's point. I actually think there's a footnote here. So the footnote number 5 says, the Rambam indeed asserts that there is a biblical obligation to pray. Our Gemara says very clearly that tefillah is from the rabbis. The Rambam says it's from the Torah at least once a day, because the Torah says, Ul ovdo b'chol levavchem, you have to serve God with your entire heart. Eizohi avodah shebalev, zohi tefillah. How do you serve God with your heart? Through tefillah. The Rambam says it's from the Torah. This Gemara very clearly says, tefillah de Rabbanan. The Ramban argues with the Rambam and says, Rambam, tefillah cannot be from the Torah. You know how I know? Masechet Berachot, Daf Chavav. It says, Utfilah Rabbanan. So what is the Rambam saying? It's tefillah deraita. So let's see how they say it. Nevertheless, even according to the Rambam, the extent of this obligation is merely to articulate some form of prayer at some unspecified point during the day. According to the Rambam, a person can fulfill his obligation of tefillah once a day, really, with any form of prayer. Ribono shel olam, help me to find the parking spot. According to the Rambam, you fulfill the obligation. Amidah is not deoraita. Tefillah is deoraita. Now, a person could do it through Amidah, but he could do it through anything. So this guy who's we're talking about, the guy already started. The situation of this case was someone who already started, and we tell him, just cut it short. And you might say, well, why? You say, oh, because it's only rabbinic. You might say, it's not rabbinic. You have to pray. According to the Rambam, it's from the Torah. Another Rambam says you could do it anyway. You could just say, Hashem, help me to succeed. And that's it. So to say the words of the tefillah, you wouldn't be allowed to do. That's what he says. The obligation to pray at specific times and the particular texts of the prayers that we recite are all of rabbinic origin. And this accounts for the Gemara's classification of prayer as a rabbinic obligation. Okay? Omed b'tefillah is an amidah. This guy already fulfilled his obligation of tefillah for sure. So we tell him, just wrap it up. You don't need to do any more from the Torah. So, and if a person didn't even start, there could be other ways to do this without saying the whole amidah. A guy doesn't need to say words of Torah to say, Hashem, help me to, like I said, not have to, help me feel better. And that's it. That's really the way a person should fulfill his obligation. Can fulfill his obligation from the Torah. Okay, I have to answer a lot of questions. We have to deal with the halakha question of what Jared is asking, what Rama is asking, but there's not enough time tonight. And we're not done with the sugya. What I would like to do is next time we'll go a little bit more with the Gemara, and then we'll get into the halakha. Halakha of how thought and thinking and contemplating is viewed according to the halakha. Ready for a Nafka Mina? Should I give you a Nafka Mina? I'm not allowed to drink if I didn't say a bracha before. Okay? Here's my Nafka Mina. What, Adam, you have my Nafka Mina? No, I'm not talking about that. I want to have a cup of water. Am I allowed to drink it without saying a bracha? No. Okay, ready for this. I forgot to say bracha. I have the water in my mouth. Okay. Do I need to spit it out? I'm not looking for an answer. I'm looking for a Nafka Mina. And yes, no is not what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a Nafka Mina. Okay. That's good. You're already talking about whether you're gonna like get, gross out other people. But think about this as a Nafka Mina. What's the principle? If thinking is sufficient, if thinking is like speech, then I don't need to spin it out because I could just think in my mind, and then I could drink it. Do I need to spit it out? No, because if thinking is like speech, I'm not required to spit it out. But if thinking is not like speech, I'm not allowed to do it. I'm not allowed to drink without saying a bracha, and thinking is not going to work. You have to spit it out. So this is like Nafka Mina. Am I required to spit it out or not? So then you could have other consideration of what if spitting it out is gross, okay? But you see how like this is a Nafka Mina, okay? That's a question of whether thinking is like speech or not. It'll affect it. Whether you're allowed to think about Torah before you're saying the Birkat of Torah. Thinking, if I'm not allowed to say Torah somewhere, am I allowed to think it? This is like an example of that, okay? Yeah. Yeah, Hamotzi, Shakol. A Baal Keri would not say Shakol, but not even think Shakol. They would just drink.
They wash.
Yes.
They wouldn't say that.
Yeah, it's rabbinic. According to the first opinion, correct. Because it's rabbinic, yeah. Sorry?
Other rules apply. If Ezra only says Tefillah.
He didn't say tefillah, he said Torah. There's Torah involved. There's Torah included in Birkat Hamazon. There's Torah there. Berachot. Yeah. Okay, I guess it's on tefillah also. It's a good point. Ezra Sofer's Takana is coming up. I believe it's on the next daf. So as we see it, we'll okay, it's a good question that we're gonna pin. Put that in the comments, in the YouTube comments, okay? The question is, what exactly was the takana on? And why, and what happened that the takana is not still there? So many questions, yeah?
There a concept from the Baal Shem Tov that according to the Ten Commandments, you should always have Hashem on your mind other than when you're in your bathroom. When you're in the bathroom, you can't even think of Hashem.
Nafka Mina.
That means that thoughts are actually things, and if it's prohibited to think about Hashem in the bathroom, then for sure thoughts mean something. So it can't be that it's thoughts or anything. So outside the bathroom, think of Hashem. Inside the bathroom, don't think of anything holy. So that means thoughts have an importance also.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that's the question. The question is hirhur kidibur or hirhur? Now you're saying even if it's not, you still have to treat your hirhur with biktusha. Your hirhur, you can't say since my thoughts are not words, then I should go have disgusting thoughts. Your thoughts affect who you are, and this is actually probably a nice concept to end this by. There's a Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin that says hirhure avera kashim me'avera. Oh, hold on, I have a question in the chat. I just have to search this for a second. Hirhure avera kashim avera. It's a Gemara in Masechet Kiddushin is what I just said, right? Let me see if I can find it. Hirhure avera. Kiddushin, what daf? Daf kuf something. That doesn't even show up. Probably there's no yud.
The thoughts are worse than the sin.
Yeah. You're gonna put in ChatGPT, but don't tell ChatGPT what to tell you. Say it again. I spelled that incorrectly. Oh, here, poor. Okay, that's why. Thank you, Jared. Here, poor. What's going on? Here. Oh, that sounds right. Okay, very good. How'd you find it? Yeah. I'm sorry. Honestly, this is embarrassing. I should be able to. What does hirhur mean? Thoughts. Yes. So what the Gemara tells us is that thinking about doing an avera is even worse than doing the avera. How is that possible? Here it is. Hirhure avera kashim. We're not talking about you judging other people. We're talking about for an individual. Hirhure avera kashum avera. The thoughts of a transgression are worse than the transgression itself. The Rambam asks how that could be possible, because when I do the action, I'm thinking about the action. So how is it possible that the thoughts of the action is worse than the action itself? The Rambam explains as follows. He gives a very nice mashal, that let's say you have someone that does the action without thinking about it, or you have someone that is thinking about it and consumed by it and doesn't do it. Which one is worse? He gives the mashal as follows. I've heard Rabbi Ben Chaim say this mashal, that let's say there's a king, and in the king, there's a poor person that's homeless, and they went and they stole from a grocery store. And then they bring this person to the king to give him judgment. What does he do? He says, you have to get this guy to pay $100. There's a fine for stealing. There's no stealing in my kingdom. $100. You make him pay $100. And he says, I don't have that money. He says, you have to go work, and you have to pay this $100 to the guy that you stole from. Then he finds out that one of his closest confidants, one of his governors that are in the palace, stole. So he comes as kingdom in front of the king for a judgment. And what does the king do? The king says, kill him. Death penalty. You're stealing from the palace, death penalty. He says, Your Majesty, I have a question. That guy stole, you made him pay $100 fee. I stole, you're giving me death, give me a $100 fee. And he says, it doesn't work like that. Once you're in the palace, you're held to higher standards. The body, this is not what makes our neshama. What our neshama is, what our neshamas are, the thing that is closest to God is our mind. It's our ability to decide. When someone does something with their hands but doesn't think about it, that's the body. But when someone spends their mind thinking about doing a sin, that's the part that's closest to Hashem. That thought, that sechel, is what makes us b'tselem elokim. That intelligence is what brings us above the animals. So when someone takes energy of their intelligence, of their sechel, of what is like made in the image of God, and uses that to think about sin, that's much worse than actually doing the action. So do thoughts matter? Of course thoughts matter. Thoughts are what make us above the animals. The animal can eat, I can eat. The animal can walk, I can walk. But I can think, and I have an intellect that's above the animal. It's what makes me B'Tselem Elokim, above the animal. So it matters. Here we're talking about a technical way of fulfilling an obligation of saying Shema Yisrael, or whether there's an enactment against thoughts when there's an enactment against speaking about Torah. It's a technical thing, but it's not about like what you're quoting. Thinking about Hashem, of course it's important. That's not what we're talking about in this case. Okay? All right, gentlemen, with that we have to stop. Ezra Hashem, we will pick up, God willing. Actually, I have to just say, next week there is a mental health event with Rabbi JJ YY Jacobson. JJ Wacobson. Yeah. Rabbi YY Jacobson. And I think it's a very important topic. Most likely we will not have shiur because I think it's important for people to go to that. Stay tuned in the chat and we'll confirm whether we have class or not. Okay? Azak Baruch.
Azak Baruch. Thank you.
Rabbi. Good night.